Thank you for that introduction, and another round of applause for our panelists, please. So one key learning I took from the keynote address by Rachel was the case study, the success story she shared, and how 80 employees took on a challenge that everybody deemed was impossible. And within 90 days, she mentioned, they had done what professional consultants had said was impossible. And now that ties closely to what our theme of this occasion is, which is from crisis to opportunities. They took a challenge, they took a crisis, and they turned it into an opportunity. And I am sure we are all aware here how much of a challenge we are surrounded with right now. There's been a lot of shifts in our economic landscape. And just recently, I know a friend came up to me just a couple of days ago and he was like, Patrick, how are you guys managing? Because for me, I've not been able to plan. You know, this is regular. This is the time when most organizations go into their annual planning sessions. And it was like, I approached my clients and I asked them for their plan for 2025. And they told me there's no plan. We will take 2025 as it comes. And meanwhile, a second client was trying to tie him down to a 2-year contract on the same terms as was signed in January 2024. Now, how do you want such a business? It's a service provider. How do you want him to plan for 2025? But however, it doesn't mean that it is impossible, just as it has been shown. So our objective with our time here today is to share some of the thinking about how organizations can transform challenges that surround us into opportunities so that they can survive and thrive in spite, probably I should say, of the economic landscape we find ourselves. And so I'll start with you, Kotter. So just like Rosaline has mentioned and had previously commented, since sometime last year, the Naira has lost about 70% of its value. Interest rates have increased. Fuel prices have increased. Power costs has increased. Then the uncertainties that surround us globally, the war in Ukraine, the war in Gaza, the supply chain disruptions that have caused, the election of Trump, the increasing pushback on immigrations, they have all created a level of uncertainty and complexity that most businesses are not used to. So I would ask, what can leaders and organizations do differently to prepare themselves for this level of economic volatility and uncertainty?
Thank you very much, and good morning, colleagues. Now, thank you for having me, Rosaline, and the Kotter institution. Now, to be honest, starting with your friend who said that there's no need for planning, we'll take next year as it comes.
That was his client.
His client said that to him. And I believe that's why we're here today. So we move away from those kind of responses. You know, do nothing is not an option. Wait until, take each day as it comes. It's also not an option. It's never an option to change, to do nothing, because then you become reactive rather than proactive. So indeed, you have to do something. I guess it's figuring out what is the right thing to do. Whilst there are no right and wrong answers, it's figuring out what is the acceptable, or if you like, the most rewarding considerations you should be having. So with the scenario or with the backdrop of what we know already, our world of uncertainty, we could call it crisis, there is certainly an opportunity lying there somewhere. So what should organizations and managers and leaders be doing in this kind of, this kind of uncertainty? I think it's a blend of many things, 4 or 5. Let me imagine I can speak on a few for time. So first thing to be strategic planning, which is where I started to disagree with the client's response. Secondly, it will be financial management. Thirdly, it will be operational adaptability. Fourthly, it will be human capital management. I'm sure you knew I would get there. It will be human capital. I didn't start there, then. It will be human capital management. So let me start with strategic planning. It's the time to do your scenario analysis, to consider if A, what happens? If B, what happens? If C, what happens? And they got to be rightly documented so that you can swing into action if A or B happens. I mean, just look at the election. It was either Trump or Kamala Harris. So scenario planning will mean what? If Trump, what do you do? If Kamala, what do you do? So it's the time to imagine your strategic planning sessions should be full of scenario planning, risk assessments, while you are assessing your risk, because depending on your industry and depending on your state of maturity as a business, you would need to be considering and reconsidering opportunities differently. And your risks would be, if you like, diverse. So you can't copy and paste. Oh, can I have you done it in your business has done your strategic session? Can I just have yours and copy and paste? That wouldn't be appropriate change management. It would be contextualized, bespoke to your operations. So it's a time for seasoned strategic planning, led by informed consultants. If you're able to do it internally yourself, they help you do your scenario planning, they help you do your risk analysis and mitigations, appropriate mitigations. I think there are HR leaders in the room. I'm an operations, I'm an operations executive now. So absolutely, HR in the blood and in the heart. So this is the time for HR to play that strategic business partner role, to understand that strategy sessions need to be different now, hugely scenario-based, hugely risk consciousness and awareness must be demonstrated at your strategic planning sessions. Oh, let's not identify the risk so that you can mitigate accordingly. It's not as simple as I'm coming to human capital management last, because it's not as simple as how we're going to manage our people. That's too simplistic. Starts with the business first. This is the time for business to start thinking about diversifying your revenue streams, diversifying your businesses, relooking your strategy, relooking your business intent, considering strategic partnerships is the biggest opportunity area. A crisis is the biggest opportunity. A crisis is the biggest opportunity. Did you hear that? Should I say that again? A crisis is your biggest opportunity. Figuring out the opportunity, if the opportunity then becomes your own strategic priorities. So start with strategic planning, then move into financial management. It's the time to reconsider your liquidity, reconsider your cash flow. You see, these 4 areas I'm talking about are applicable even in our homes, okay? Finding the opportunity in crisis is applicable even in our homes, looking beyond the organization. The change management comes into your home. You should be doing the strategic planning very clearly to understand what needs to get off the list, the shopping list, and what needs to get onto the shopping list, and which prioritization you should be given to your cost elements. It used to be priority A to go on a lavish holiday. Perhaps it's not priority B. You see what I mean? So financial management comes after strategic planning. And in that space, what are you doing? You're looking at your cash flows, you're looking at your liquidity, you're looking at your balance sheet again. You're looking at whether you need to borrow and at what cost can you afford to borrow? At what rate level should we keep our liquidity? You're looking at contingency plans. Where am I going to find money if this happens? And all these things, they're applicable at the organizational level, applicable even more at your personal level. These response strategies. So how moved on from financial management? Because it goes on to from liquidity planning to cash flow management, then it moves gradually into looking at your balance sheet, then you start looking at your investment opportunities and options. Perhaps it's time to divest from some, with all of this, you're going to need consulting powers because you cannot be a strategic thinker, a strategist, at the same time you're a financial group, it's impossible. So at some point, and you don't really have to pay for all the consulting. Sometimes it's to leverage your network. This is the time to speak with my brother Yemi, who is a huge influencer, who is a huge, so you must know Who is in your network and what do they bring to the table? Then you know how to call on that to say, when we're thinking our investment opportunities, can we think together with you? Make this time to divest from a particular sector into a particular sector to find the opportunity in the crisis. Let's move away from financial management. Thirdly, I said operational adaptability. It's a time for you to rethink your operations. At this time, you can come and talk to me. Rethink your operations, customer experience. How do you face the customer? How do you keep the customer? Is this the time to lose your customers? The answer is no, isn't it? How do you keep your customers on stock to you? Questions to answer urgently. How do you get your customer to increase their loyalty, advocacy, increase it? Because within the crisis, spending continues, correct? No organization exists in autarky. In other words, exists all by themselves to themselves, end to end. They will still interact. So spending continues, interaction continues. How do you make sure that spending is coming your way? So within operations adaptability, number one, customer experience. How do you ensure that at every moment of truth, moment of interaction with your brand, product, service, it is top notch for the customer to keep the customer there, increase the customer's wallet share towards you, make yourself the preferred, go-to when the customer needs to spend, the money goes to you. So customer experience management, top on the list of operations adaptability. Next on operations adaptability is digital, I want to call it digitization. Ensuring that as much as possible, automation, you're able to automate, processes that really don't need to be manual. They come as automate, you automate as such that you can deliver faster to the customer. So you're not automating for automating's sake. It's like, this is the era where I have to get to my customer fastest, not faster, fastest. No other provider gets my customer first. So secondly, after customer operations, is customer experience. Is very quickly look at what can I do differently within my operations to make sure that I turn around my products and my services faster. And that's where you look at automation. Thirdly, in operational adaptability, you then begin to look at cost efficiency. Because you see how to make profit. You watch your cost, you drive your revenue. As simple as that. So leave revenue for revenue's sake for now and go into cost optimization. How do I ensure that I spend only when I need to spend? How do I block? Well, there are always loopholes to block. Even in our homes, I'm sure you can figure out the loopholes already. We've all figured out the loopholes, particularly the females here. We're constantly figuring out the loopholes and fighting our support staff. So figure out the loopholes operationally as well within your enterprises. Figure out the loopholes in cost. Optimize. The best news you give to any chief executive now is to say, you know what? I have achieved X cost savings. I have optimized my budgets, by X greater than last year. My spend is lower. I mean, you get a seat on the table and nobody will take that seat away. Wage of opportunity in the midst of the crisis. Let's leave operational adaptability and go to, well, I'll do number 4 before I do human capital management. Number 4 is digital transformation. Because in all of the industrial revolutions, we are in the 4th, arguably, some people say the 5th, post-COVID industrial revolution. But let's stay with the 4th, which is evidence-based, which is digital transformation. It's within the crisis, there lies the opportunity. So it's a time for enterprises to begin to ask themselves, what do I need to do differently to engage this whole digital transformation that is upon us with this 4th industrial revolution? And top on the list of that is to think innovatively. Look for your innovation roadmap, lead that process to say, how can our organization embrace digital transformation? Starts from your innovation roadmap. Think about it strategically. I don't want to go into too much details in that regard, but digital transformation is the number 4 to do in responding in this critical climate. You may just find the opportunity in there to say, how can we shift as an organization and come up with our own digital transformation strategy, roadmap, and begin to implement that. Finally, human capital management. In this space, the obvious becomes the least you can do. That's why I went to human capital management. In this crisis, you would have thought I'll come in to say, oh, increase salary, do this. You are doing the very minimum. And honestly, even after doing all of that, you still lose the most. So start with all in this order, and then come into it to say, you know what? How do we ensure we retain our talent? is difficult, and it's going to become more increasingly difficult. How are we going to ensure we identify, bespoke engagement drivers? People work for different reasons, and we must move away from thinking that people work for compensation and benefits only, because when you do that, you lose it. People work for a lot of engagement drivers that are not affected by the current economic realities. Figure out those engagement drivers. Be as creative as possible. You wouldn't get there if you don't increase your active listening capacity as a leadership. Get into their hearts and their heartbeats, and then come up with your own bespoke engagement drivers. Forget about Gallup. For now, place it on the box. All of the Gallup, Q12, Q10, all of the engagement drivers that we cannot read in our sleep, as HR people here. Put them on pause and go on go on an adventure of finding out the engagement drivers in this crisis. It could just be that all I need you to do is to listen to me. And don't copy and paste. Oh, these people are doing work from home. Hey, these people are doing, when you finish doing it, your business will still not have what you need. So just go on that engagement driver, if you like, survey, research, and then begin to come up with a bespoke engagement plan and get leadership committed to deliver on that engagement plan. Pay attention to talent retention. Pay attention to employee engagement, wellness and well-being and all of that. Pay attention to training and development, because you now need to reskill people in a fourth industrial revolution. And reskilling people, let it be future fit reskilling. You can't afford to reskill people with obsolete skills. And then embrace career management in a manner that I consider out of the box. Out of the box thinking career management. Don't imagine that he or she came in as a personal assistant and that's it. This is the time to, when you say remodel people, when you say upskill, reskill, this is the time to create outcomes that enable people go in as orange and come out as pink. You see what I mean? Close enough, but able to complement other colors. Get career management, get career planning to happen differently. Listen to the people, do the engagement differently. Of course, when you start talking about engagement drivers differently, you also have to begin to, when you listen to the people, communicate more effectively. Let people know how is all of this affecting the business and what are you doing to respond. Get their ownership, speak to culture. We now need to drive a culture of innovation because that's what you need to thrive in this new context called crisis. I'm going to pause there. Thank you.
Thank you. That's fascinating insights. And so, Jumoke, before I ask you your question, maybe just in a minute or so, what's your take on the question she just answered?
It's definitely.
Yeah.
I was curious to know why HR sort of came last, but it made sense to say, or human capital. It made sense to say, let's look at the business. Yeah. And then we're looking at the implication of the people. Of course, people will drive all of the initiatives to come up with. But yes, that stood out for me.
Okay. And she mentioned, just before I asked the question, or leading to your question about how we're in the fourth industrial revolution, some would say fifth, and how it seems we the first, second, third, and fourth, and we shouldn't miss the fifth. So as a nation, and we all know that if we are going to achieve the sort of economic development that is required to surmount the challenges that we find ourselves in, the private sector is going to need to play a very critical role. And we are seeing some companies stepping up, right? However, just like Rachel mentioned, traditional and hierarchical structures are not really suited for the speed and the pace of growth and the type of growth that we actually need as a country. So my question, how can companies address this cultural resistance and build an agile, change-ready organizational mindsets that can turn this crisis into opportunities?
Thank you very much for the question, and thank you, ma'am, for laying a fantastic foundation for the conversation we're having. So I think for starters, it stems from the top. So if we're going to grow an agile organization to make sure that we respond to the changes, then it better be that the leaders are the ones who are having these conversations. Because when you drive it from the top, largely, you're going to get the buy-in of the people who are on the shop floor, who will make things happen every day. So start with leadership. And that's the essence of a conversation like this that we're having, to say, how do we get leaders to understand the implication of this? Again, we can stand on the rooftop and scream about people accommodating or welcoming innovation and stuff. But when you think about it, you either innovate, or you die. So yes, we're screaming, innovate, think about how you do things differently. But do you want to be behind? The examples we can give of organizations that did not innovate. So increasingly, if we're going to be, adapting to change, it is our deliberate to say, what we're doing now, this is it, but what do we need to do differently? So innovating as an organization is very key, no matter what space you play, rethinking what you do and how you do it. Some other things I noted down was, of course, it's important, like I said earlier, look at leadership, and then you need to welcome open communication. Let people be able to talk. You never know who has the brightest idea in the room. If you're the only one who talks as the leader, you're not listening to your people. She talked about active listening. Let people be able to come and share with you. Oh, I was looking at this thing. We did it like this last year. I'm thinking maybe we look at it this way. Welcome people's ideas. You have to be a person who can talk to for them to bring their bright ideas. So if we don't get it right with leadership again, I'll have those ideas. But because I know that my guy will not listen, I'm going to be mute. And then we're back round in circles, having the same issues we had before, because we have not created that, conducive environment for people to do meaningful work. While Mrs. Amobi spoke, a few things occurred to me that during COVID, I remember Pepsi, when they launched Too Sure, 7-Up, they launched Too Sure, and I was like, I'm used to drinking from you guys. You mean I will be cleaning my hands now? But that was them being creative to say, we know to satisfy your belly, but we're in a new reality that we're all fighting for our lives. And I will make you hand sanitizer to make sure you stay alive. Now that is you adapting to change. One other example that occurred to me, and these are things that we should do as organizations and even as individuals. And I like how Mr. Mobi was talking about, not just as organization, as an individual. What are those high ticket things that used to chop your money that you need to be rethinking? Should I still be going down? That's change. And some of the things that will also help us, she talked about reskilling, training, and I realized that emotional intelligence is very key in driving change. Very, very key for individuals and for organizations. So I recall that an organization reached out to me about 3 years ago to coach somebody on emotional intelligence. And it was because they were about to let her go. So she wasn't, she was doing well on the numbers, relatively, but she wasn't getting along with other people within the business. And so the business said, you know what, go and meet this woman. She's going to coach you for 3 months, and then we'll see if we would confirm you. And so she came to me, she was really bitter. I was like, don't be bitter. But she could have paid me directly. But the organization has paid. 1, 2, see it as they're bringing you close to me. So you're adding me into your network. And so we started the conversation, did all the sessions. And it was later the HR person reached out to me. So she eventually, got confirmed. And then the HR person reached out to me to say, I don't know what you did to her. I don't know the conversations you guys had. But she just got diagnosed with cancer. And the person we know, she will have lost her mind. But that because she had that foundation of, I know how to manage my emotions, I know how to deal with tough situations, she did not break. And so it was the HR person that called me to give their feedback. So I realized that, wow, it's not overrated. So as organizations, are we equipping our people with the skills to build on their emotional intelligence? Understanding those key things so that when the business says we are moving in this direction, no, we're not telling them we want to go like this. Do you throw tantrums? Or you are quick to say, okay, where are we going now? What do I need to be doing? What tools am I going to be using? I've entered organizations and I'm told they're going to work with Airtable. I was like, what's Airtable? What's Airtable? And then I'm told all your policies will be on Notion. And I'm like, I know Slack. I know Google Meet. Where is this? But it was up to me as an individual to say, how do I use these tools? Because I'm either learning to use these tools or I will be frustrated. So all of those things as individuals, we have that responsibility. Again, I will not put all the responsibility on the organization. We as individuals, when we talk about personal development, is you going out of your way to say, what do I need to be doing differently? So the organization has a responsibility, and I'm saying it in this room to say, the organization has a responsibility. You as an individual also has that responsibility to say, how do I respond to change? And if we are proactive enough By the time the organization is coming to talk about that change, even you are at the junction of that change. So as an individual, and that's how you become an asset to your organization.
So if I might just chip in, because something interesting you mentioned about the importance of emotional intelligence, right? But there's this perspective most people have about hard skills being more important than soft skills. Now, I say this because if you notice, I was having a conversation with someone and this came up. Soft skills tend to be lower priced than hard skills. It's debated, yes. But, however, it does tend to point to, if you use price as a barometer for significance, then you would say some might not consider soft skills as important. And when I say as important, I'm saying with the intention to buy. You know, how many companies actually buy soft skills for their organizations, for their workforce, for their people, right? So perhaps what I want you to share, right, maybe with a bit more war stories if you have, is how important these skills are, especially in light of what we're speaking, being able to harness crises or challenges and turn them into opportunities.
So I agree that the debate is ongoing,
Yes.
And whether or not soft skills are essential. But imagine you're a line manager and every month somebody leaves your team. You are technically sound, you're raking in the numbers, but I'm losing talent because of you. I'm having conversations around, there's a high turnover in your department, what's going on? We will have that conversation. So, and then you start to hear, oh, he's always looking at me, he sends me emails telling me, am I sick in the head? Are we going to have a conversation or not? We will have that conversation to say, how are you managing your people? I remember I started from how we lead. Now, if you're not giving the right taste in your people's mouth, see, like you said, we're dealing with a lot already. As in, like, all the odds are already stacked against us. Coming to work, going back home, depending on the band you're on, you feel okay like this. So you get home, you don't have power supply to even push. And then you come to deal with a boss who is belittling you by the day. So by the time you start to lose talent, we will have that conversation. And I always say to people, technical skills will get you the job. How you move through the ranks, how you scale in your career is the soft skills that make the difference. And we don't even call them soft anymore. Power. What do you call it?
Power skills.
Key skills, life skills, they have become so important. And any organization, I've said it before, innovate or die. So any organization who still thinks there's no big deal about it, you continue to lose talent. And your talent will go to your competition. Your competition will be growing. And then you know you're taking the back seat already. So all these conversations we need to have eventually. Okay.
Thank you very much, Jumoke. And so Yemi, would you like to chip in before I ask you your question?
The ladies have spoken. Nothing to add. Yes, I totally agree that soft skills have become fast skills. I think they were rated for a very long time, and they make all the difference as you move across the different industrial revolutions. As we are now either on the threshold of the field or we are in the field, they become extremely important. You check the world economy from soft skills or 2025. You probably will not find one technical skill there. They're all human skills. I was waiting for power skills. They're all power skills. Many things that in the past. So if businesses must make that quantum leap and achieve exponential results, they need to have a shift in our mindsets.
Thank you very much, Yemi. And so she mentioned when Dr. Jumoke was speaking about the importance of leadership, right? And I remember when she was saying something about going into a workplace and they're saying they're going to use Airtable or Notion, right? So, and Funke alluded to this, the essence or the importance of digital transformation, right? So a lot of companies are going into it. Now, but we are also aware that sometimes these technology implementations do not get us the benefits that we envisioned at the beginning. So sometimes they are present, but the size of the benefits is smaller than we anticipated. or sometimes they're not even common, right? Now, so there are gaps in the implementation. So my question to you is, how can leaders collaborate, both HR and business, to ensure that these gaps are closed?
Well, I think we usually start wrong during moments of change. We focus on the outcomes for the business and focus on the numbers. But there's a need for us to have a rethink around the impact of the change on the people first. The more we can quickly sell the WIIFM to people, and that's not a radio station.
Yeah, could you
what's in this for me? The moment we can, or the earlier we can start to sell the benefits of how it will impact people positively, of course, then the better for us to get people on the side of that change. Yeah. But what we tend to focus on is what we want to do, what we want to achieve, increase the numbers, reduce the cost, operational efficiency, and guess what? We're not taking people with us. At the end of the day, we will have resistance to change. Because during that moment of whirlwind and tumultuous change, people are thinking, how is this going to affect me? I worked in an organization where Funke work now, and I remember that during the merger between Islamic and IBTC Charter, the foundation for the people side of things were solidly laid. I promise you that for several months, we were just looking at how we were going to integrate people from the two sides of the divide. And when that merger eventually happened, it was almost seamless. But some other organizations will go through that and focus a lot on the numbers. We're spending $800 million on the merger. We want to make 1.4 billion eventually. But how will that have impacted people? Let me tell you one of the things. One of the things that we sold immediately as soon as the merger was announced. We sold the fact that no individual was going to lose his or her job. That was the first thing we sold across the two sides. Okay. So what it meant was that if there were two heads of operations, or there will be two heads of operations, we will find a way to make sure that with transferable skills, the individual who will not become the head of operations for the new entity will find something else within the organization. And I promise you that was followed through till the end when the merger was bedded down. So if we quickly do that, we'll find out that we will have change agents within the business. Employees themselves will be the individuals who will say, no, we're going to support this because there's something in it for me and there's something in it for everyone. So let's go through change businesses, but please let's not leave our people behind. The earlier we take them on board with us, the better, so that we can then have a successful change management. What I tend to see these days, everybody's talking about tech, driving changes in business, right? It's tech this, it's tech that, it's AI, it's robotics, and they're all real. Yes. I was at an event on Saturday, and there were 3 fireside chats. The guy who owns, I think it's called Cassidy, is that coming for? I think the tech company. After the chat, I mean, it was all tech for like 1.5 hours, and I was beginning to wonder, what are you doing? Everybody's talking tech and AI and the next level and tech 3.0. I'm still at tech 1.5.0. You know what I mean? But the guy ended his session by talking about the future, and that was what he said. And that was what made me feel part of the conversation. We're talking about talent in the future and the changes. And the guy said that, I'm trying to say, I've asked for his name if I can get it before I leave the stage. The guy said 2 things. Number 1, is people. Yeah. Number 2 is people development. And this was a tech guy who's run businesses across different continents and now has come back home to Nigeria to build a solid business. And he ended the conversation landing on people. So we take the important, yes. Are we going to be looking at the economic indices by all means? Yes. Operational efficiency, definitely, but please don't leave your people behind.
Thank you, Yemi. And so I like the fact that you mentioned that we need to be conscious of the impact on people, right? And even with the so much focus on technology, fintechs, this craze for fintechs in the Nigerian space now, almost seems as if it's the preeminent startup, right? That's within our context. Now, so probably I'll address this to you, Funke, okay? And I would want eventually for each of us to just short takes on this particular question. So he mentioned, right, new technologies. We're having artificial intelligence, nanotechnology, augmented and virtual reality. I heard Facebook just launched a metaversity, 2 in Europe, right? And we have quantum computing. Obviously, we know what Tesla is trying to do with driverless technology. So all this, they are poised to change the way we work, the way we live, and the way businesses operate. Now, what do we need to do to prepare our organizations and our people to ensure we harness these opportunities, that we don't miss out on it, as we seem to have missed out on previous revolutions, and such that we will get the benefits that this wave of technologies will bring.
Thanks very much. So, and don't listen when Yoni tells you that he's at stake 1.0. That's not true. If you use technology exponentially, yeah. So, technology is upon us. It's that space where you can't afford to ignore. It's no longer it's no longer a selective consideration. It's a holistic consideration. All businesses must find themselves asking themselves, so what does all of this mean for us? Artificial intelligence, you've done the list, you've run the list down, to say, what does this mean for us? And in my view, it begins first and foremost with that roadmap. Coming up with your understanding the landscape to start with. Businesses have to grasp an understanding of this landscape and then come up with an innovation roadmap. A roadmap to say, this is what it means for us as a business to embrace this technology. Evidently, there's always an end in mind. Usually it will be revenue-based, usually it will be service-based. There must be what's in it for me, for the organization to go digital. So you must answer that question, what's in it for us, for the business to start with, and put it in your roadmap. You see, I was in the session recently and one of the speakers, panelists said, look, you can't say, we're going to come up with an artificial intelligence strategy, policy and all of that, when the basics are not in place for your business to start with. So when you get to understand what does digital mean for us, what's in it for us, then you get into a roadmap. Then it's usually will begin with an infrastructure, because you must have required infrastructure in place to begin to make the best, to leverage AI. You've got to be cloud-based. Yeah. To leverage AI, you've got to have data competences, okay, analytics competences. So you must understand to leverage the digital, opportunity in the digital landscape. You've got to first of all get an understanding of the landscape. What's in it for us? What's our roadmap? How do we want to go about this? It starts with infrastructure. Do we have the investment to build into infrastructure? And then it moves easily into people.
Funke, can I have Dr. Jam come in there? Okay.
So the people element, of course, is starting off with having an organization that is very big on learning. Because increasingly, your people need to be able to adjust to the change. We're talking about adaptability. So helping your people adjust to change, being big on learning. It's talk about skills. So yes, as you're building them up on technical skills and technical know-how, you're also focusing on the power skills. We should not call them soft technical. So you're helping them master all of the skills. One of the things I've also seen over the years is you increasingly see that collaboration is very key. At times in organizations, it's not that we can't get the job done, it's just that finance doesn't want to talk to HR. And HR is looking at operations and I don't look at me. But we need to work together to get the job done. So how do we constantly remind our people that collaboration, interdepartmental collaboration is very key? How do you make sure that a file is going through your desk and you move on quickly, you're not waiting, it's not my job, helping people have a sense of ownership, helping people have that entrepreneurial mindset to see this thing needs to get done. So all of those things help our people be able to adjust to change. That's just
So, Yemi, do you think, or how do you address the concern of some that these new technologies will actually take away jobs and not add to it?
It's not going to take away jobs. It's already taking away jobs. Let's not kid ourselves. Honestly, I mean, I'll give myself as an example. I always say that I'm a new entrepreneur. My first time in entrepreneurship was in 2020, February 2020, just before COVID. And I remember that you know David Brown, D Brown. I was in his office. We stayed at we did the same estate at that time. So he said to me, "Don't get an office. Come to my office and just see about. I've been in business for 14 years. Don't get an office." So I stayed with him for 3 years. I ran back in 2025, 2021. I was ready. From 2021 till date, I still don't have an office. So the job of a front desk person for why talent partner has been taken away. You know, like a business development person. The first thing you will have thought about them will be, where should I get an office? Like, Ikoyi. If you can afford the item, right? But till now, I don't have any physical presence. So the way we did business has totally changed based on the fact that we can leverage easily on technologies. And for as it is for small businesses, so also for big businesses. You don't need to have a presence in a country now to operate and operate effectively and efficiently. So it's not that technology will take away jobs. Jobs are being redesigned, jobs are being redefined, and jobs are being recoded. All of that will change. Some parts of jobs will go, and some jobs will totally go. Where is the typewriter today?
Where is it today? True. And maybe to come back to you, Dr. Jumoke. So he just mentioned, like, jobs have gone, right? I was in a session recently where this question was posed, and the response was, jobs won't go, just as you mentioned that towards the end, they will change. So what happens is that people that are not tech-enabled probably lose out, while people that are tech-enabled will survive and thrive, right? So what's your take on that?
Just going to say you just answered the question. No, really.
Okay.
So it's not really about being scared that AI will take my job.
Yes.
It is me knowing how to use AI. I tell people that till now, some people have not had interaction with ChatGPT till today. There's been a lot of conversations around ChatGPT can do this for you, can do that for you. You're not even trying to see how it works. You're not even engaging. And that's an issue. So you need to be familiar. You need to start, and that's why I said the organization has a responsibility, but I think I would rather charge individuals. When we do it for ourselves, we are the ones adding value to the organization.
Yes.
So by the time the organization is having that conversation, you are already a step back. And that's what stands you out as talent.
Yes.
That's what makes you sought after.
Yes.
That's why they will come and approach you.
Yes.
Yeah, let me add that.
Thank you very much. So final thoughts, everyone, and starting from me, right? So what thoughts I want to hear. What's your counterintuitive, right? Half crazy prediction for next year?
I think 2025 is going to be an amazing year.
Wow.
I'm already excited about 2025.
Okay.
But I think I'll concentrate on, we talked a lot about the technical side of things. I'll probably just quickly touch on the softer side of life. For businesses to thrive in this moment of uncertainty, so to speak, it will require new behaviors. We can't take our old self into a new, I thought it was a new normal, but it's become a new abnormal. If you ask me, post-COVID, we can't bring that analog mentality to run businesses in a digital revolution. Yes. There's a mismatch already, so it won't work. Another thing is, I think this game of businesses also should start from the mind. We're focusing too much on the challenges around us because of the uncertainties. Meanwhile, there are many, many opportunities. Let me give you an answer. Everybody here, if I tell you what the meaning of, or to tell me what the meaning of T-game is, I'm sure we are. How many of us are concentrating on T-game? You are, thank you. Anybody around me, once they start the conversation on T-Pain, I quickly switch to T-Pain. somebody asked me at the beginning of this year, I mean, what's the space in this consulting business? I said to them that I want to build another KPMG from Nigeria. And I want to say that when clients cannot afford the KPMG fees, top four, and then they go down field consulting, because I'm a new entrepreneur, then you should think of why I'm talent careers. And it's been a fantastic year. And that's the reason I said I'm looking towards 2025. So businesses will need to make quantum leaps, not with the same set of behaviors that we have now. We have to change. Dr. Price Pritchett, in quantum leap concept, says don't try harder, try differently. So our behaviors must change.
Thank you, Yemi. Thank you. Timoke.
I was listening so much that I didn't remember I was going to speak next. So I think the one thing that just stands out for me is really how organizations will help their people, not just learn to survive. Like what Rachel was talking about, when she was giving us context, not just helping our people survive, but helping our people thrive. Because in the end, they're the ones who make all these things happen. I always say to people that you come up with a strategy document. We've all been doing that towards the end of the year, preparing for the new year. And the strategy document will not implement itself when you just put it on the table. You say it to your people, you let them know where you're trying to go, and then they're the ones who get on the road. So how do we help our people understand what it means to not just survive, but thrive? And that's the place of resilience. That's the place of teaching our people to use their staying power, their grit. It takes a lot, and we know what the realities are. And I'm trusting that in all of the conversations that Kotter will have as these trainings happen, they will focus on our realities as a nation.
Yes.
We sort of localize, because yes, our realities are realities, and that's where the change will really happen. So I'm hoping that in these conversations, we teach our people. I believe that if you get it right with our people, management won't scream too much. Yes, when your people understand these things, your job is half done. And that's what we've all said here. All of the using technology, if your people cannot even use the digital transformation, what are we saying? So helping our people get on the game and helping them see, wife has said it already, what's in it for them. Because if you continue to scream and you don't see what I'm trying to achieve, how does it impact me? How does it help me contribute to the business? They will just always be averse. But when we help them see it, then it pays off for them as individuals, and then of course the organization, and hopefully the economy will enjoy it as well.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. Before I give you my final thoughts, let me tell you a story. I was with a friend in a shop. I ran into a friend in a shop out of the country. And I was trying to buy a top. And I didn't want to buy the top. I was convincing myself that the color was red. How do you convince yourself this is red? Then it's probably not red. Because red is red. But I wanted to buy the top. But red was what I was looking for. I bumped into her at that moment and I said, you know what? Tell me, is this red? She said, is the question, what is this color? I said, okay, what is this color? And then she said, let's ask ChatGPT. And she took a picture of the dress and we sent it to ChatGPT. And the answer came. I'm sorry you could guess it wasn't red. It wasn't red, but by that ChatGPT explained the color. Said in the family of, it ended with red. And I ran to pay for the dress. I said, whatever you've called it, it ended up with the family of red. I've said that to say, you know what? You have to embrace the change. And that's my final word. 2025 is going to be a year of embracing change. It's going to be that year that you are the change you want to see. It's going to be a year of, I've stepped away from, the norm. It's going to be the year of protein careers. It's going to be the year of individualistic decisions. It's going to be the year of embracing the change at the lower levels before you expect the higher levels of change to happen. If you, even as a manager yourself, as an HR manager, if you are not the change you want to see, please don't drive that change. Because you haven't earned the accolades to drive the change. 2025 will be a year of change. I am excited. I'm looking forward to the changes. but you will get from it what you give to it. If you are on the resistance mode, you will know, you will certainly not be expecting derivatives from the change. If you are in the driver's seat, carry people along. Help people understand the why of the change and give them what they need, the ammunitions they need to change. If people need to be reskilled, please help them get reskilled. Invest in tools. Investing, we just talked about it, no point driving an AI policy and strategy without investing in the required infrastructure. And in the cloud, do people have data skills? Can they do analytics? So equip the people with what they need to change, facilitate the change. As the change begins to occur, celebrate the change. Celebrate the change. As the change begins to occur, invest in embedding the change. That's when you begin to invest in retaining the people, so that they can keep the change embedded, locked down. If you have to lock down the gains of change, you have to deal with talent retention. Otherwise, you will disrupt yourself so frequently, you'll be wondering what happened to the change. This change is going to happen next year. It's like a ripple, it's coming. You say, oh, but it's so painful. Change is going to happen, whether we like it or not. The question is, will you be a part of the change? 2025 is the time to take ownership of the change. Say to yourself, I will move with this change. Because there's no point. You certainly will be left behind. When we say jobs are falling away, but new jobs, the pace of new jobs adding to the catalog is faster than the jobs that are falling away. The question you should be asking yourself is my job ready to fall away? If you haven't asked yourself that question, get out of this room and ask yourself. Even if you're a business owner, ask yourself, is my job falling away? What you're asking yourself, can people buy my products without even coming to my shop? If they can get to the point that they can buy my product without coming to my shop, and all that, my claim to fame is I'm a shop owner. What does that mean? Nobody's going to come to the shop anyway. So how can I then make sure that they can buy even when they don't come here? So initiate your change for next year. As an individual, initiate your change. Be the change you want to see. As a business owner, of course, enable the change. As a leader, as an HR, leader, facilitate the change. Because as far as I know, and as far as we all know, the change does not require our permission to happen. The wind of change is racing. It's racing across industries, across sectors, across nations. It's racing globally. And, the only thing we can do to ourselves is race ahead or race in tangent. Definitely not race behind, because you will be left behind. And at that time, you're really dealing with post-mortem issues. So finally, be the change you want to see.
Thank you, Kotter. Thank you. We know that probably have a little experience of the story you shared, because I once wore a shirt that I thought was red and was told was mine. So, yeah, please.
I don't think I'll be happy leaving the state that saying this. We will require new leadership competencies in the now room. So businesses, please, as you get ready for the change, let's get leaders also ready to manage the change.
Yes.
We need new leaders in the now world who will lead with humility, connectedness, trust, and emotional intelligence. Many businesses are not making that comfortably because we're not getting leaders ready to manage the change that is happening. Now, the guy I was talking about, Johnson Agogwa, is the founder and CEO of Cassicla. So he understood that technology will make massive changes around people, but he also understood that it's about leadership and managing talent in the now world. Thank you.
Thank you, Yemi. And so we'll take a few questions from the audience, if we have any. Thank you very much, Patrick.
Rachel, are you still there?
Cheers.
Okay. Is there anything, by any chance, you want to chime in on anything so far?
Well, I've been listening and appreciating all of the comments. There were a handful of things that, for me, stand out because they personalize change so much. The idea that change and these skills are life skills today. even just 5 or 10 years ago, the perception was that these were sort of nice to have, and not core. And at the end of the day, the world that we live in is moving so fast, is so dynamic, is so complex. We need these skills in order to be able to live our lives at the highest degree possible, regardless if it's at work or at home. And so I think all of the comments around that and bringing things, all of the stories that you shared that were so personal and drew on the experiences that you all have had in your personal lives, not at work. That's, I think, the connection that all of us need to be making around what it means to navigate change, to lead change, and to help all of our people. We spend so much time at work. We spend so much time in business. And it's just such a core human element to be able to have this skill. And it's so increasingly important today. So I just really appreciate all of the examples that you all shared to make those connections.
Thank you very much. So questions, we'll use 10 minutes to take questions. Yes. So if you have any questions, just raise your hand. So I've got 2 people. Who else? Anybody else? 3 people. I think we're gonna take like 5. Yes. Oh, okay. Online. Sam. 2 questions. So just tell us your name, your organization, if you don't mind, and then the question, and who you want to direct it to. So.
Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Akiyemo Fola Shaki. Call me Fola. I work in Wema Bank, change management. I have 3 questions, but great. Okay, so the first one is to Mr. Yemi. So you have spoken about trust, basically gaining the trust of your people, very important in change management. But in the instance that you gave where Stanbic IBTC, you had to do the merger and you didn't lose anybody, what if you got to the point where you didn't envisage that you're going to lose people, but it had to get to the point where you had to lose people, even after giving your word? What do you do at that point? Because then it seems like you're breaking the trust from before, right?
Well, if you ask me, I also don't think that change is static. The fundamentals around change will change from time to time, and that calls into question also your leadership capability to manage that situation. So the assumptions, the fundamentals, economic, environmental, political, may change with time. And that's why I think we just said change is dynamic. So we're not going to say that for the next 10 years, we're not going to lose people. For the instance of the merger, but I promise you that 1 or 2 people may have resigned and gone to Canada or the UK and all of that. How do we manage that? So trust is also about communication. So when the unexpected happens during moments of change, how do we handle communication? Do we also just say, shh, don't say? But before you know it, the grapevine news is all over the place, and that automatically breaks trust. So manage the fact that change is dynamic, number 1, and be dynamic as a leader. And also number 2, communication around the entire process must also be very, very critical.
Okay, thank you. Jan. So my question to you, because you've been speaking about leadership, and obviously I'm a big fan, but in change management, I find it a little difficult, maybe not personally, but I think that one thing that we don't speak about very much is that a lot of change managers that I know are middle to low level managers. And it's very hard influencing the leadership when any small thing, they can sack me. So what do I do, basically?
I know that I can relate. Again, it is, so I imagine that the change management function reports into someone. Hopefully, the person is senior enough. So even if you're the one who is doing the groundwork and you're not a senior, if you're the line manager who I expect is senior and has the buy-in of leadership, can be the one to speak on your behalf, can defend the work that you do, then ideally your life should be easy. So I'm hoping, again, I'm hoping, I know your reality is real, but I'm saying in the case where you have a line manager who can speak up for you, then you're covered. But maybe in some cases, this change manager might report directly to the CEO or something. Again, it has to be that the CEO needs you to drive those initiatives. You should have the CEO's backing. So this is me saying, but I don't imagine that as a change manager, you will exist in isolation. Mr. Mobi said that earlier. The reason why that function exists is because the business knows that that function is to do something. So I hope that they allow you to do it. If they don't, what should you do? Do you understand?
Can I do consulting for free for you quickly? You see, people like Funke and the rest of them, a couple of years ago, HR, human capital, did not have a seat at the table. So they started a movement. All the activities of today started a long time ago when we started canvassing that HR must have what? A seat at the table. So please bring your colleagues together, change managers, and start a movement, a sort of advocacy to the point where you get a seat. See, this seat is empty. That's yours. You guys need to get a seat at the table. Yes, getting the influencer you are reporting to is very important. Getting the CEO's backing very important. But also, you guys need to get a seat because there is no better time to have change managers in the place of work than now.
Thank you so much. Let me just add to that. You see, leadership is influence. It's not particularly a job title. Even though job titles are leaders, but leadership is influence. And to influence, all you need is a voice. I like to add to that having a voice is not all it requires. You need a microphone and a platform. Your role as change manager is a microphone already and a platform. Use it to make your voice heard. If you need to speak with the CEO, speak with the CEO. And let the if you like the fearlessly speak with the CEO, courageously. It's your role anyway, the change is upon us. I'm here to speak as a change manager and speak as a change manager. The truth is, when you're gone, there will be reflection. Oh my God, she said A, B, C, D. Once you are confident enough, but she has asked that we consider doing less of this and more of that. So it's also for you to be ready to be on tradition, if you like. But change is what it is. It can be any of those every now and then. It can be disruptive, it can be traditional, it can be, but like Amy said, you need a seat at the table. But until you get that seat, walk to the table. Go and meet the people that are seated at the table. All you want them to do is hear your voice after all. Now, it may not be done. Don't quit talking because actions have not been taken. What you've said may not be done. It may even not go past Mr. or Mrs. CEO. It may not never get to Expo. Say it again and again and again. And keep saying until, just get ready to be that, voice that, the lone voice, hopefully not in the wilderness. Just keep saying it. That's a change. That's a change driver. That's a change when you've got to be tireless about it. One, passionate about it. Secondly, tireless about it. Be willing to put the emotions into it. More often than not, you will have a breakthrough. You get to the point where the CEO says, let me talk to her. Wait. Let's invite her into this meeting. Because she's used every opportunity. I've gotten an email, I've gotten a WhatsApp, I've gotten a Teams, I've gotten everything. She's used every communication channel to show me that we're going in the wrong direction. Guys, Expo, let's invite her into this meeting. There'll be a breakthrough one day. But you're not going to get it by not saying anything, by not doing anything, by not acting. If you wait until you get the title, change. It's maybe if you like, maybe belated at the time you're bringing the change of this. You are change manager, so you knew about that. How come you're just saying that now? We're having this conversation because, competition has moved against us. And now you're telling us we could have actually done things differently. So then it now becomes, your own word against you because you thought, look, I don't have enough authority to deal Just let your voice be heard. That's all you need to do.
Thank you,
done.
ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. So you even already partly answered the question I wanted to ask you. If there's an instance where there's a tech trend that your organization is trying to jump on, but you don't feel like your people are ready, and you've spoken and spoken, but obviously you can't get to top management, so you just keep speaking. What do you do?
The question is, why do you think your people are not ready? What's that worry you have? Readiness check. What is it? Is it skill based?
Yes.
What is it? Because sometimes it can be even your skills based. You have hopefully 2 or 3 options. You're buying the skills. We don't have the skills, but we have to deal. So you may have to buy the skills. That's another change round that requires other, if you like, kind of techniques to get it right. Because we don't want to buy and disengage the people that are in town. So it's a tricky line, but it's not impossible to run. Or you may have to buy the skills because the readiness is skill based. You have to buy the skills because we have to go. Or you may have to borrow the skills from somewhere else. You borrow it from within your organization. Once it's competition, you're buying it in. But if it's within you, but they have it in this other part of the business. Can we get someone who release us for some time here to help us trigger this process? To manage that differently. You're borrowing. Or you may have to build internally and say, you know what, we've got guys with potential. If we send them to A, B, C, D, they'll be there, they'll even do better. But you know what? We need time. We need time. So we're not going to go live now. We're not going to go. So your roadmap will be such that is amended. Your change plan has to be blended with your approach, your reality. Buy, build, borrow. Your change plan must acknowledge what you need. If what you need is time to build this talent, and you know that we need to send them for ABCD courses and they need to get the following certifications, but they're ready to run. There are many times when, you need to buy this skill, you need to get consultants to come and do this. And internal team will tell you, don't worry, just give us 1 week. We're going to get online, study, and we're going to be able to do this internally. And guess what? They do it. So what is your readiness check about? Firstly, if your readiness check is about skill, is a skill-based check, as a change manager, you've got to inform management in a very deliberate manner and inform management with your proposed remediation. Now, I have a check, we're not ready because However, this is how we can get around it. So you must have change managed it yourself. So throw up a problem is not all you need to do. Otherwise, somebody will shoot it down and say, don't listen to how we're ready. Let's move. Or once you said we're not ready for this reason, and this is how I believe we can get around it. Let's get into a planning. I have the plan already, and I can trigger it once I have your approval. You probably will get the approval. Maybe a budget is required as well, because if you want to build, you need money to acquire the skills very quickly and give the people the challenge to do. All the best. Well done.
Thank you very much. Rachel, your thoughts?
I think just the closing thoughts, or are we one more question, or do you want me to do closing thoughts?
What's the talked about so far?
Sorry, say one more time.
On the questions, do you have any contribution so far?
I think that I'm going to sound like a broken record, but echoing a lot of what you all have shared again. I think that when it comes to sort of asking the questions of what's in it for me and how am I engaging folks in order to move forward, when it comes to, is my job at risk? Are my people's jobs at risk? How is technology going to disrupt my way of life, my way of doing business? I think that all of those things are about engaging. All of those things are about making connections. All of those things are about, and I know somebody mentioned even earlier talking about, and we didn't really go too deep into it, but emotional intelligence just as a practice. I think there are all different types of practices that can combine together and really help to equip people to better manage through this and lead through it.
Good morning. Yes. Good morning, everyone. My name is Bimbala Wright. I'm the non-executive director in Ecobank and a couple of other companies. The greatest challenge that I encountered as a leader was managing a multi-generational team. 4 generations, different aspirations, expectations, work preferences, and all of that. And it was bad enough under a BAU situation, but in periods of change and unprecedented change that we've seen, particularly in the COVID years, it was a major challenge. So what advice? I mean, I don't know if I'm addressing this to anyone, maybe Yemi. I'd like to put him on the spot. But what advice would you give leaders today? I mean, as you've all acknowledged, change is real and intense change should, even more intense change should be expected. So what would your advice be on harnessing the abilities of the multi-generational team? Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for being on the spot. Interestingly, this is one of the things I wrote about on my LinkedIn post last week, Monday, and I gave a counterbalance this week, Monday. So I'll read out verbatim what I said last week, Monday, and I was talking to the older generation last week. I said Gen Zs ain't lazy, they are not rude and impatient, they are not entitled. They have only prioritized meaning over money, purpose over promotion, over salary. To get the best out of them, connect, engage, and lead with empathy, trust, plus emotional intelligence. First things first. And then this week, I said to the Gen Zs and the millennials, the labels all around. It's loading. So I said the ancestors are not old-fashioned. The boomers are not slow. The X's are not archaic. They have only migrated from an analog world into a digital revolution. The wisdom of the old is needed to balance the energy of the new. To get the best out of them, a good dose of tact, diplomacy, emotional, and relationship intelligence is required. First things first. So this is my script for both generations. I think we label a lot too much rather than focusing on the synergy in the room. So we're on different sides of the divide, and we see entitled on that side, rude on this side, lazy on this side. And from that side, they see old-fashioned, too slow, archaic, and all that. And what happens to the gulf between the generations? Continues to widen. So what there's something to be done by members of the different generations. First thing is to stop the labels and find synergy. I know an ancestor who's an entitled person. I know a boomer who is rude. You know what I mean? So those adjectives and words are not the exclusive preserve of any generation. And I've also come to find out that no generation is better than another. Every generation is just unique. It is that uniqueness that we all need to find. And when there is bad distance theory, right, between individuals and entities, the one with the higher power has the more responsibility to close the gap. And that is why I always focus on leaders to find ways to close the gap. If they don't want to, if they want to do fist bumps with you, mom and dad at work, we do it at home with our kids, don't we? But we find it difficult to do at work. So we say treat them with love at home so that we can connect. But when it is 8 to 5 at work, how do we treat them? We treat them with toughness. We are teaching them resilience. Why can't we take the same love out of home to the place of work? So I think that the leadership competencies that I talk about, they are critically needed in today's multi-generational workforce. In fact, it is because of the texture and the construct of today's workforce that leaders must change mindsets about leading people. We came from, sorry, I'm a Gen Z. You came from that, from the years when if you wanted to make a phone call in Lagos, an international call, and you didn't have the 90 box at home, you had only 4 options. 90 Marina, Papa, Ikeya, Surya. And it's not as if you go there, yes, you won't understand. It's not as if you go there and then you quickly make a call. No, you first have to write your name on a sheet of paper, do your shopping and come back. And we are leading a generation who wants to make a phone call now, here and now, and the wheel. From the days of yellow cab on the road where you stand, you have to stand. If you're going home, you have to stand and say drop. To them sitting here now and ordering a cab. So things have changed. The analog competencies of leadership may not work in the digital revolution. Leaders in today's workforce must change. I always give the example of my daughter. You and I were talking about it. One day she came from school and called me Pops. From where? Imagine if I called my father, my mom, or my father Pops. It wasn't my father that would have been from anything she really had to call from anywhere. You know what I mean? But you know what? I recalibrated in a few seconds to say if I respond to this girl in a way that will make us feel disconnected, that will be the end of the connection. Her name is Tiwa Jokwe. Till today, since that day, I call her Jobs. So her Pops and she's Jobs. Connection still intact. So we all need to change our leadership competencies so that we can manage.
Thank you very much. Rachel, you have a comment?
Yeah, I think when we think about multi-generational sort of attitudes and assumptions, there's a lot of crossover and a lot of relationship between the trying to connect across generations and any cultural integration that you're doing. So there's a lot of similarity as we think about this question that also comes up when we're doing a merger and integration or we're doing a restructuring, and people need to come from where they are with such a strong association with things that they identify with, that are meaningful to them, that are important to them. And a question that we'll often ask when we're working on cultural integrations in whatever scenario is, what is possible today that was not possible yesterday? So yesterday, you didn't have this giant surround around you, or you didn't have perspectives of other people in the room. What do you have available to you today because you are with this new group of people, because you are outside of your comfort zone, because you are exposed to new perspectives and experiences and ideas? What is possible now that was not possible before? And it allows people to open up and start to see and respect and appreciate the other contributions that folks can make into that conversation. And I think it's important in any kind of cultural integration, whether it's multi-generational or otherwise. And it's just being able to step back and stand confidently in what you're bringing to the conversation, and also appreciate what others can bring into it as well. So it's just a reflection on that multi-generational question. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Rachel and
I know to add a quick word to that. And thank you, Mark, for bringing it up. This is right. So the concept of diversity and inclusion got broadened over time. You know, so now it's DEI and B. Diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. So it's no longer diversity and inclusion, just like that. You know, and when you think about the generational, across multiple generational workplaces, you know, that's where change managers really come into play. And the change management capability of the leaders, HR leaders, and leadership becomes very critical. You know, to move from just being a diversity alert organization to a diversity, equity, inclusive, and belonging organization is a lot of change. And, you know, we have to be mindful of the change. Mindful all the way to our policies, to our culture, to all the way. The mindfulness must be tangible, must be tangible. Once upon a time when I joined the Standard Bank group, Standard from the Diabetes like 11 years ago, I got into an environment where when I arrived for day one and I was taken to my office, I was like, hello. So I was country head of HR. I was expecting my own office. Are you there? I was expecting my own office, my table, my chair, my office. Yeah. And I ended up with a desk. I got a table, I had a chair. But it was in an open office in the same room as everyone. So I almost thought, wow, one chance. Welcome to a culture and an environment that was deliberately fostering inclusion, diversity, inclusion, equity, and belonging. So opposite me, and I mean opposite me, just a panel separating us, or somebody else, another generation, get ready for that. And so that's really how the belonging is going to happen. So you've got to do it in tangible ways. That's where change management becomes real. It's got to be clear that this, multi-generational, workplaces are real places that you can tell. And guess what? And I thought, oh, wow, at HR head level, I get to sit, I'm okay, and then I begin, okay, then let's go see. So when did all the interviews happen? In meeting rooms. So you didn't have to do all of those. Then I had to go quickly see the CEO, okay? At that time, Shola David-Boa and Yinka Bank CE, Shola Country CE. And I was taken very quickly into their office, like, also in an open office. Everybody had their tables, their PAs had their tables all around them. And I thought, oh, wow, the message was clear. So we got to be consistent. That's where change management becomes real. We got to be consistent in the policies, the artifacts, it must be blended, encouraging generational integration, not segregation. Otherwise, it's not going to be going anywhere. And it's further heightened by a first name basis culture. So everyone, Shola is Shola, Yinka is Yinka, Funke is Funke, everyone is everyone. I had a young lady, she doesn't work for us anymore, so I think she left a few months ago. I had a young lady whose parents were members of my church, and I knew when she was born. Now she was a member of my team, sitting a few tables away. And then she calls me by my name. And then we went further to say, every time you say Mansa, it was Shola that started it. You pay 1,000 naira. In those days, 11 years ago, Shola was saying, you pay 1,000 naira. And she'll appoint somebody to collect the 1,000 naira. So that when we have a pause at the end of the year, we take my colleague. There's a colleague, former colleague, somewhere in the background there, nodding his head in that corner. Because it's all fact-based, he understands what I'm saying. Collect the 1,000 naira. After a while, we increase it 1,000 naira. I'll tell them, no, now guys, it's 10,000. You know the reason why. Be careful of this sasa. If you want to say it, you can pay in advance. You can pay like 10,000 naira, 100,000 naira. Then we're telling you to say as many mas and stars as possible. So that made everyone realize that this is real. Shola is happy for you to call her Shola. So is Yinka. Now, both of them have moved on to very senior. Shola is retired now. She's actually the chairman of Stanbic IBTC Holdings PLC today. And Yinka is at the group level, a group executive. Now we have Wale, we have Pole, everybody goes by their names. Graduate trainings will go by your name. So my young lady at home in church will call me, Auntie Funke. And then in the office, she calls me, hi Funke. And I will stop and listen to her. It is diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Let's make our workplaces belonging. Let's make it DEI and B, where everyone, multi-generations, can be the best of versions of themselves at work. They don't need to put that best version at home because that's where there are no barriers, and give you with the version you want to have. That's what I'll give you in this office. But the version that is expressing my full talent, I don't think I can give it in the office because they will think I'm a Gen Z. They'll think I'm an alpha, But at work, please express it all. And the reason we went that open open office and first name basis was to enable that multi-generation integration so that you're a graduate trainee, you can actually look at the group chief executive who is close to retirement and express your genuine intent, feelings, and opinion about a subject matter. So it's just make us very, less technical and very practical about this whole diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, okay. Because of time, we might not be able to accommodate more questions from there. So we'll just take one line.
Maybe just one question.
Yes, one line. So the question is, the bank's core banking transformation left customers stranded. What would have these banks done better in change management to avoid such inconvenience to customers? So Glory sends this in. Did you get that?
This will be me attempting to respond on behalf of that bank or the banks that were concerned. But there's many things. Was it their launching before they were ready to? Not saying it was about readiness. So we Folashade spoke earlier about there's a change initiative, and I'm worried that maybe our people are not ready. So was that platform ready? Was there even communication to customers to know what was coming in case there was any itch? All of that should have happened. Like I said, I'm responding on behalf of the organization. I know that I work for my bank. I don't know that you had any issue with our platform. So for those platforms, again, many people have said different things. Maybe focusing too much on some other aspect of what they focus on as businesses. I'm trying not to, because I'm talking about the competition here. Yeah. So I'm trying to be careful with what I'm saying. But again, it is readiness. Were they ready? Were they actually ready? Did they check? Did you also communicate to customers? Because if there was an email going out to customers to say, we're trying to do this, we don't know if anything will go wrong, but preparing people's minds. I imagine that if they had done that, all of that would have helped to sort of manage people's expectations. But I also know that no matter how much you communicate, when I want to get my money and I can't get it, no English you tell me what actually, no English you tell me what actually makes sense. So again, even after that has happened, how did they now manage the conversations? I don't know, many of them didn't respond. I don't know there's no responses from these organizations sort of addressing the issue after the fact. Maybe that would have helped as well. I hope that helps.
That helps. And thank you very much, Jumoke, for answering that. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Yemi. Thank you, Funke. We've learned a lot, I believe. If it's something I would all like you to take away from this discussion. Oh, okay, go ahead.
Mentioned something around the generations that we talked about, and it was that I would like us to see it as fruit salad, that every fruit brings a different flavor. So I want to take a decision. I remember to call my mom to say, Mommy, what do you think? Because I trust her experience, I trust her depth, I trust that she has walked that path, and so her responses to me can help me make an informed decision. It's important that we see the older people at work like that. Don't see them as a competition. The journey they've been on, they are not smelted. That's the reality. So accepting that they come with a unique contribution to the table. And so same thing for the younger people. So we have even our parents, they're dressing up for work or for an event, and they're like, what do you think? Do you think the shoe matches my daily? Because they trust that we are fashion forward. So as we do that even back home, it's important to bring it back to the workplace to say, everybody brings something unique. I know we've touched on it, but I just wanted to re-emphasize to say, see it as fruit salad. There's a flavor watermelon brings, there's a flavor the apple brings, pineapple, depending on what you put. And then at the end of the day, that's what makes it a yummy fruit salad. I hope that helps.
Yes, it does. Thank you very much. Thank you for all the insights that have been shared. I hope we're going to go away with the need for us to improve and increase our change muscles, paying attention to what's in it for me. And remember, it's me. So we always need to personalize that for the employees, for the individual, what's in it for me, and try to communicate it effectively as much as possible. And I will leave up with the very insightful comments from Dr. Jumoke. Let's see ourselves, our offices, as a fruit salad, right? every generation, every function, every cadre brings a flavor that helps with the eventual taste. Probably, and we all know, a fruit salad with only one fruit is not a fruit salad, right? So we need all flavors to make it work. So thank you. Thank you.
Round of applause.